everybody, I am Jarrett Ross, the GeneaVlogger, and welcome back to another GeneaVlogger live stream. And today we're doing another Building Your Family Trees. So welcome everybody. Thank you for joining. I do want to say, as you can see in the corner here, ask questions in chat as we go through today. I will try to answer stuff, but if you do ask a question attached to a super sticker, I guarantee that I will answer that. Granted, I am a little limited on time today because I've got a hard stop basically, maybe a little after 5, not a hard stop at 5, but we basically have about an hour. So that usually gives us enough time to get to 2 folks, which so far I should say there's only 1 submission. So if you have not put in a submission yet, the submission link is in the description. But I am going to put a link to it. Oh, I just see a second one came through. All right. Putting that in chat so that way you can get to it, especially for my 1 viewer in Twitch. But while we wait, let everyone kind of start putting stuff in. I should say, too, with that, if you want to make a submission, it doesn't have to be like a brick wall or anything. It can just be some part of your family tree that you really are, wanting to boast about a little bit. So having me build it on stream or, things like that. So maybe you have like a great grandparent who did something really cool. Or maybe there's something really interesting that you had a cousin that they did or something, stuff like that. Obviously there's a limitation based on living people, just because I don't want to, dox anyone, and, privacy is something I am worried about. So go through, I should say, if you have submitted in previous streams, I clear those out after every stream just because I want to make sure whoever's family tree I am building is actually in chat. And so I know that, there's probably going to be a lot of people that weren't in the last stream or that were in the last stream that might not be in today's stream. So let's go through and say some hellos because I see we've got a lot of familiar faces. And I have to say, not first, but I will give you the first click. Anna Tomaso coming in from Western New York. You were beaten out today by one of our Australian watchers. Hello, House Martin 56 from Gippsland, Victoria in Australia. Thank you so much for joining because I know it's got to be super late out there. I mean, I guess at best, if you're on the western side of Australia, it's what, like almost midnight or so, or no, I guess it'd be past yeah, it'd be like 1 a.m.-ish. Because I think on the East Coast, it's like 12. I'm pretty sure the East Coast of Australia is 12 hours ahead of where I am. And it's 4 o'clock here, so 4 a.m. there. So thank you for joining. And we have another Australian here, William Allen. Thank you for joining, William. Let's see. Focus, camera, focus. There we go. There's nothing else for it to focus on. I have a green screen behind me. So funny. Julia Joyce from North Baddesley, England. Hello, Julia. Thank you for joining. Our Scandinavian representation. Stig coming in from Oslo, Norway. Hello. And GMG, the fact that I've got to go to work here soon should be a crime. Yeah, sorry to hear that. But thank you for jumping in for the little bit you are available. James Burton coming in from London, UK. Thank you for joining as usual, James. And then we have Blue Varo. Hello from Chile, Fargo, North Dakota. Well, hello. Thank you for joining. And we have my mom coming in from the Triangle area in North Carolina. Hi, Mom. Larry Rose coming in from Manitou Springs, Colorado. Hello, Larry. Thank you for joining. When I first saw your name, I thought it was Larry Ross. And I have a cousin named Larry Ross. For those who don't know, my last name's Ross. But so I was like, oh my gosh, is that my cousin? But no, it's not. Jose Lopez, 94. I'm excited for the stream. Well, thank you for joining, Jose. I know I've been seeing you very active in a lot of streams recently. We have Alexandra from Koblenz, Germany. Hello, Alexandra. Always wonderful to have you in here. Matt Bishop. Yeah, one of our wonderful mods, admins. I always say mods, admins, because I can never remember which one everyone is officially. but you're doing a new submission thing each time. So yes, every time I'm doing one of these streams, I'm clearing out the submission form. It's the same form. I might need to update it because I know a lot of people get confused by the link or Reddit post part because I don't clarify, but I should clarify here. What I mean by that is if there's more information that you want to provide for what I want to look into or things that maybe you're like, just so you can look at, maybe like a newspaper article or something like that, you can post those images in a Reddit post on my GeneaVlogger forum on Reddit, and then just link it there. And that's kind of what I meant by that. But yeah, so new submission thing each time. Tasha, hello from cold Minnesota. Hello, Tasha. Thank you for joining. Michael Rochester, I have a direct descendant from Henry Howard, the Earl of Surrey, who got executed by order of King Henry VIII. Very cool. I'm guessing you meant direct descent. Or maybe you have someone there with you who is a direct descendant too. John Tyner, good evening. Like the hat. Yeah, thank you so much. I love these kinds of hats. They kind of grew out of my love as a little kid for Newsies. The movie Newsies, for those who aren't familiar, was my absolute jam when I was a little kid. I used to like dress up as a newsie. So I always love these kinds of hats. And I actually got this hat when I was in Colorado last time for Edutuber meetup. So when I met up, it was like Mr. Beat was there, Chris Mowry from Vlogging Through History, Canubis, Mr. Betts, or drawn from history, Dr. Joseph Hall Patton from Cynical Historian. A whole bunch of people were there, and so I got this hat on that trip. But it's kind of funny because I feel like it makes me look especially Irish. Like I don't know. It just, even though we all know I don't have Irish ancestry. Nick Brokema, goedenavond van uw Groningen. Hoe gaat het? Ik ben goed. En Rab vanuit Netherlands ook. But I'm guessing you're in the UK today. But good evening. Always good to have you, Rob. Shemi D'Angelo, hello. Thank you for joining. IDK, hello. Oh, and also hello from Matt Bishop. Let me do a quick check. Okay, we're up to 3 responses. So we got some more hellos. So for those who are trying to get a response in, keep going. Got a little bit more time. John Tyner, Victoria is nearly on East Coast, South Coast. It's about 4 or 5 a.m. there, I think. Okay, yeah, I couldn't remember where Victoria was. But okay. So yeah, East Coast. If the East Coast is 4 a.m. Huh. Okay. Yeah. I guess maybe I was wrong. 12 a.m. Yeah. Maybe 6 a.m. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe for our Australians who are still here, tell us what time it is there. Jose Lopez, I think I figured out where I got French ancestry from since I live in Indio, California. Interesting. Brennis the Menace, ahoy from Nebraska. Thank you for joining, Brennis. Ben Bryson coming in from Massachusetts. Hello, Ben. And then Nable Disabled. Hello from Stockholm. Hello. It's been I feel like you haven't been able to make the streams as much as in the past. So it's good to see you. Oh, and a good shout out for the Discord. For those who don't know, I have a Discord channel, very active, lots of people in there, constantly helping each other, and just a fun place to kind of interact with other people interested in genealogy. Ricky Kelly, hello from Ohio. Hello, Ricky. Thank you for joining. Next Lifetime Brendan. Hi. Hello, Next Lifetime Brendan. And then Jose Lopez, speaking of Irish ancestry, okay, here you've got paternal ancestor from Limerick, Ireland, from the 15th century, I think. Cool. Weeping Scorpion, hello, everybody. Hello, Weeping Scorpion. And Sebig coming in from Norway. Hello, good to have you. John Tyner just Googled time in Gippsland. It's 11 hours ahead of me, so just after 8 a.m. Wow, yeah, that's late. So all right, we're still at only 3 responses so far. So I guess what time is it? It's 4:09. So I'll give another minute. We'll do the thing at 4:10. And basically what I'm just gonna do is the number of submissions. I'm gonna run through a random number generator, and then whichever number is chosen, that's the choice I go with. So yeah. But as I mentioned when I started, Blah, blah. If you do have questions, feel free to ask them in chat. Can't guarantee I'll answer all the questions, but if you do a super sticker donation, I do guarantee I'll answer those. Granted, as long as it's within my time limitation. Let's see. Barry Slippas. Hey, man, have you ever investigated someone's ancestry outside of Western Europe? Because it gets much harder. Oh, yeah. I mean, I've investigated a lot of ancestries all throughout the world. I mean, yeah, the majority of my stuff is within Western Europe. Well, actually, you know what? I don't know if the majority is. I mean, the majority is Europe and the Americas, I guess you could say. But I do a ton of Eastern European stuff, like a ton of it, you know, especially with my, you know, Ashkenazi Jewish ancestry. But a lot of work in Ukraine. For those who've never seen it, I have a couple of videos that also go into a lot of stuff that's been going on in Ukraine with the archives there, even before the war. I have a video that came out not too long after Russia invaded Ukraine. But the first video I did, which was with Alex Krakowski, was a while back. And then I collaborate with so many Eastern European genealogists, because Alex Krakowski's one. Then there's Sergei Fazulyanov, Victoria Himshit. I'm blanking on some of the others. Maxim Spivakovsky. I haven't done as much with him. He just uploads a lot of records, but I've been in contact with him about things. So yeah, I mean, it gets very hard. Yeah, it's a lot of it has to do with what, you know, what records you have available and things like that. You know, like one area that I've researched is North Africa. So in Tunisia, I had a lot of family from my Livorno branch of the family in Italy that were in Tunisia. And if you look at the map, you can see there's a strong correlation between Italy and Tunisia, in the same sense that there's a strong correlation between Spain and Morocco. And so with Tunisia, I've gone through some of those records. There's a video on YouTube from one of my cousins actually going into the history about Tunisia in recent times. But yeah, so lots of that stuff. But it does get a lot harder. It does get a lot harder. See a lot of people talking about stuff. Oh, yeah, and I'll give Matt that little shout out. He has an Irish genealogy Discord server. So if you specifically looking at Irish ancestry and you'd like to get into a Discord server where everyone's kind of aimed at that sort of research, that's the one to go into. So with that, I mean, we're still sitting at 3 responses. So I think we're just going to go ahead and do that 3 responses. So I'm going to get this set up so I can show it on screen. Okay, so glitching out. There we go. Just getting this pulled up. So it's going to be one of the 3. I got you. Shiami, do you only help with European brick walls? I submitted one, but it's US based. Oh, no, I do a ton of US research. No, there is no limitation on anywhere. You can ask for literally anywhere, because at the very least, what I can do is I can show what my thought process is on working into a new population group. Because one thing with a good genealogist, I feel, is even though they will have their expertises, they will understand the process of research, so that if they have a whole new population group that they come upon, or they need to research something completely different, they have a basis of ways to work to uncover what they need to get at. But yeah, so I mean, if people have Asian ancestry, if they have African ancestry, if they have South American ancestry, US, Canada, Mexico, Western Europe, Southern Europe, Eastern Europe, the Baltic states, Balkans, the Scandinavia. I mean, just to give Weeping Scorpion a shout out, the Faroe Islands, you know, anywhere. So yeah. And hi from Hamburg, Germany. Good to have you. Always wonderful to have someone from Hamburg. Okay. Oh, and we have one of our Twitch people, Illyrian. I'm using ChatGPT for the study of my DNA results, and it's quite good as it gives you all the answers as well as recommendations for further research. Yeah, ChatGPT and large language models are very useful in terms of helping with organizing research and understanding where you might be able to go, with the understanding that it's very confident in giving you wrong information. So a lot of it could be correct. And especially with, you know, in terms of DNA results, if you're having it analyze a large amount of data in a specific way, that's a great way to use it. But obviously, if you do that, definitely, you know, be careful as you go along. But very cool to hear about. Yeah, endogamy galore. I wonder why I wanted those islands. Oh, and Sunny Zitrone coming in from Germany. All right. So we're gonna share the screen. We're still at just 3. So okay, let me just refresh that one page, just double check. Yeah, still at 3. Okay, so we're gonna see who's the one of the 3 chosen. And it's number 3. So whoever waited around to get theirs submitted. Oh wait, here we go. So Dawn Mysteries. So Dawn Mysteries. So just say hello so I know you're in here, and then we'll get started. I'm assuming they're in here for the most recent submission. But I guess we can look at what they put so far to get an idea. Knowing my mom's side, don't know if my second great-grandpa was adopted. Okay, so Ed Drummond, this is the information on him, and that's the second great-grandfather. See if he's adopted. We've got a family tree. All right. Ah, it's you, Ricky Kelly. Okay. Okay, so you're Dawn Mysteries. All right. Cool. Let's get started then. So what I'm going to do is bring up my wonderful tether tree live stream. So we've got that there. And let's pull up this tree. And so we were looking at Ed Drummond. So not that Ed Drummond, this Ed Drummond. And you have family in the tree. You have assumed parents. Do you? Yeah. Okay, there are 2 thing I found. There's 2 Ed Drummonds. Okay, so basically you're not 100% confident that this Lewis and Margaret are Ed Drummond's parents. Zoom in on that for everyone to be able to see. So one I think maybe died, and then he got his name got changed. Okay, but you said you weren't sure if he was adopted, so okay, yes, I'm not sure. So basically this is just a hypothesis. The parents are a hypothesis, and then you do have these siblings here, and then you were down here. I don't want to go too far. So this is your grandfather, great, second great. So what would that be? First cousin, second, third, fourth. So fourth cousin equivalent for people that are your same generation. Yeah, one thing I would suggest, I don't know if you've gone DNA route or not, but this is well within the window of possibly figuring out DNA-wise. Obviously, there's a couple of caveats with that, but basically the idea being that if you've done a DNA test, or even better, if whenever one of your parents was able to do a DNA test from this side, or an older generation, maybe an aunt or an uncle from this side, that you're going to be about a third or fourth cousin distance of people who are descending from this Minnie, Morris, and whoever this other Drummond is. So if you can start building those down and identifying living people from those families, that could help solve it. Of course, that's understanding that, you know, even if this may not be Ed Drummond's parents, if these people are, you know, related to him in some other way, then the DNA thing is a little bit more difficult. Plus with the distance of it. I did match with my great aunt. Okay, so your great aunt has tested. So that would be one of Eddie's sisters. which is a great place to be, because that means that, you know, if there's anyone of the same generation from Minnie or Morris, you know, coming down, then that's going to be your great aunt's second cousins. And that should fall well within a good matching range. But what we'll do today is we'll dive into the records and see what we think about with this, because you mentioned there's 2 Ed Drummonds. Now, the main question that I have with the Ed Drummonds that you both, or that you've identified, are they both about the same age and living in Ohio? Because I'm guessing that's part of it, is, you know, because if the thing to really try to do when you're not sure if there's 2 people that you're looking at and they're, you know, you're not sure what records fall to who, is it's all about identifying very specific things that you can consistently see with each person. And sometimes that's where they're located. Yes, they're from the same town. Okay. So let's look into that then. So we're going to get Ed Drummond added in here for building our own research. And this is so while I'm putting this in, I'll just explain a tether tree where I'm putting this into is a tree for collaborative work or organizing your genealogy work. And the reason why I use this here is because it just allows me to work on a lot of various family trees and then make them into what's known as a floating tree. So here's our main tether. So when we go to the home of this tree, this is where we start, the tether part. This is our, if you think of, yeah, I guess I'll just leave it at that. It's the tether part. It's the base part of the tree. So to disconnect it from that, I just go in here into the relationships, remove it, and now it's what's known as a floating tree, because now when I go and look at the tree, it's just Ed floating by himself. But when we go to search through the tree, and this is where the real big benefit is going to be, is that every tree that we've researched in these streams so far are in here. So if someone ever submits again that's already been chosen, we can jump right back into where we already were and add things in pretty easily. So, yeah. Okay, so we've got Ed added in. I'm going to add in his wife. Now, I see 2 wives. Are we confident that he got married twice, or is this more of the 2 different guys and one wife is to one and the other wife's to the other, and you're not quite sure? But based on your tree, you're descended from Alva, so that's who we'll go with, is Alva's mother, Malvina. So relative, spouse, Vina, Sylvia Sheets. And I'm not going to go too crazy. 1882, 1966, 66, and Columbus, Ohio. That saved in. Okay, you said, I think he did. So we're not 100% sure if he married twice, but you think he did. Okay. So now I'm just going to do a search with this. If it'll let me. Boop, boop, boop. Okay, it's thinking. There we go. Okay. So now what I want to do, I want to take a look through and try to see if I can identify the 2 different Ed Drummonds. Let's make the location Ohio. Oh, wait. Yeah, apply. I kind of hate that with the Ancestry system, when you apply stuff here and then you try to go in further to get stuff. Okay. So we know that lived in Ohio. Search. All right. So we've got this Ed Drummond Hattie, Clarence, and Charlie. So that's this over here. Hattie. Clarence isn't listed here, but we have Charlie. So supposedly that might be yours. But here's the thing. It shows that he's been married for 6 years. Where were they? Okay, so they were born after. So, okay. So we've got Ed Drummond married to Hattie. They have a couple of kids. That's 1900. And then by 1925, he's with Melvina. Let's see what records you have for the marriage. So that's Hattie. Okay, so we know that Alva obviously is right because that's your actual ancestor. So what we really need to see is, what I want to find is a marriage between Ed and Melvina. When's he die? He dies 1929. Okay. So I was hoping we could get the 1930 census, and then we could, get an idea of how long he and Melvina were married. But I would assume that they probably got married not too long before Alva was born. All right, let's change some stuff up in here. Take out the death. Let's do a marriage 1925. Actually, 1924. That way it gives us a little better time. Let's see what we can come up with. Nothing. Let's take that out of there. Nothing. Okay. Melvina and Ed Drummond. Let's try newspapers. I want to try to see if we can find marriage. Another thing we can try to find, actually, let's take a look for that. Let's see if we can find an obit. Probably not. Edward Drummond. Okay. The Toledo Museum of Art. Is that the your ancestor? Oh, his death certificate is weird. All right, let's see. Do you have the death? It doesn't look like you have the death connected here. All right, well, let's just see Edward Drummond, Ohio. Okay, that's 19. So this is multi-millionaire glass manufacturer and philanthropist of Toledo. So I guess this is the other Edward Drummond. Is this Edward Drummond who dies 1925? He died in Athens, had no parents on his death certificate, on his death record. Let's boo, boo, boo. Searching here then. Death 1929. A lot of Drummonds dying in 1929. Okay, so he's Louis Edward. Louis Eddie Edward Drummond. Okay. And this is just the index. Is it just, am I searching just index? U.S. death record. I thought this would be the actual records. All right, well, let's redo this search over here then. Because obviously under Louis Edward Drummond. So let's see if that turns up a marriage. And all right, let's make it more specific to Ohio then. I'm going to give us that large of a result. Okay. All right. So nothing there. So let's jump back to the death record then. Ohio. Okay, 429. Just got to keep my eye on the clock. So we already looked at that. Here we've got their gravestone. Yeah. Now, one other thing is to see what happens with Hattie. Oh, okay, here we go. So Lewis Edward Drobin, unknown. Informant, Commitment Papers, Gallia Company. What? Now that is weird. That is a weird informant. Commitment Papers, Gallia Company in Gallipolis. Gallia Company. This Ohio. That is so weird. Is that? Oh wait, maybe is that supposed to be Gallia County? Because I just pulled up Gallia County. That's weird. The county was the informant. Weird. All right. Died from chronic myocarditis. Contributory general paralysis of the insane. Weird. Was he committed? That's crazy. Athens State Hospital. Like, that's where he died. Residence, Gallipolis. So, wow. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's possible. I mean, they knew who he was. They identified him, though. So, you know, I would think, like, with the informant, it's usually a family member. But then again, I guess, depending on the deal, yeah. That's weird. September 11th, 1929. So September 11th. What's his official? He dies September 12th. Contributory general paralysis of the insane. Did not know. No physical findings and lab tests. Wow. Yeah, that is interesting. That is an interesting death certificate. So yeah, all right. Well, let's save this to Lewis. Oh. I guess we need to put him in the trees. I'm going to update this too. It's so interesting. Okay. What's the... All right. I'm going to start looking into this Hattie a little bit, I think. So here's somebody else's tree from the family. Okay, so now we're getting a little bit of the context I was going to try to look for, which was, when does Hattie die? Does it line up with everything making sense with the family? Now, what's adding a lot here is that we have a lot more children. And then in terms of a marriage, do we have a marriage? So about 1920. So what I do want to do is then 1920, Ohio. And then what was her name? Sheets. Okay, no. I'm just trying to see if I could find an announcement for a marriage, but it doesn't look like it. Okay. Let's do, all right. The other thing is, Hattie dies 1915. So I'm honestly going to say 1916 and 1919. No, okay. I was hoping that might pull up something quick. Now, what do they have in the gallery? This is something not a lot of people do, is checking the gallery, because a lot of times people won't realize they might have a lot of other stuff in there. So it looks like they have the death certificate twice. Lewis Edward Drummond birth record, 27 January 1868. I mean, that's an actual record. We've got the references and everything down below. So now, when you said there are two, oh wait, different birth date. But did you have an actual birth date? It's Edward Hastings. Now, you mentioned another Edward Drummond, but is it another Lewis Edward Drummond, or is it just another Edward Drummond? I mean, and you say different birth date, but different birth date than what? Like, yeah, different birth date than the gravestone, but in context of the records, if that is our correct Lewis, then that makes sense, because this happens all the time where by the time someone dies, they don't know the actual birth date. Yeah. I get the feeling you're watching this on your phone based on the text stuff. Yeah, it's hard to, because I know I'm asking all these questions and you're responding to them, but then I look back at your answers and I see like 3 or 4 in a row, and I'm like, wait, I don't know which one's an answer to which one. Yeah, I mean, it looks like there's a lot of information here. And this tree that this Linda Craft has created, let's see what we've got. So, I mean, we've got the Lewis Drummond and the Margaret Poole. We get more siblings to Alva, which actually, I guess it. Oh, wait. Okay, Alva's over here. Yeah, sorry. I was like a little confused. Like, wait a second. So Melvina had children. So Melvina, so Sheets was her married name for the first marriage. And then I guess was she a widow? And then he was a widow, and so they got together. But then Alva was the youngest of these two. Okay. So, I mean, based on what I've seen so far, it seems like there's some strong evidence to back up that Lewis Drummond and Margaret Poole are Lewis Edward Drummond's parents. So yeah, that's a big part of it. There we go. It's like, I know I have one of them over here. Okay, so let's just kind of get some stuff quickly added in here just to kind of beef it up. And then I think, we've had a few more submissions. People keep submitting because I'm going to do one more after this one. Yeah, we've got a lot of good stuff in here. Looks like you have a lot of cousins who have done some really good work, because anybody who's adding in records into the Ancestry system like this, they're probably doing a lot of work outside of the typical things you see with the layman genealogist. So if you have yet to get in touch with any of these cousins, it might be worthwhile. Now that Father Frank Sheets, interesting. So yeah, I would suggest, if you have not done so, definitely get in touch with them. And then even more, if you have any cousins from this who say they've DNA tested, then that's something you can use to further a lot of what we were talking about earlier in terms of trying to correlate with descendants of the more distant relatives. I'm actually going to be really careful about what I add in here because like this child, I don't think that one, all the ones with the Sheets names, I'm guessing are names of the children from Melvina's other marriage or whatever. So if I added them in differently, they would have shown up as children for Lewis. Okay. Okay, here we go. Here's a good breakdown. Lewis Edward Drummond. Eddie was my grandfather. I only found out about Hastings as I did my own genealogy. My father, Lewis Franklin, always said he was a third generation Lewis Drummond. Okay. Yeah. Doesn't really. Okay. Yeah. I mean, at this point, based on everything that I'm seeing, I mean, this for one, it'd take a lot more work to kind of dig out and confirm for sure. But based on the bits that I've seen so far, it seems pretty strong that, you know, this Lewis Drummond, born 27th of January, 1868, is, you know, your Lewis Drummond. You need to find more to better correlate that, obviously. But yeah, we do have, I just saw, where was it? There we go. And then we have this Lewis Edward Drummond, 10th of September, 1929. Okay. Oh, wait. Oh, wait, no, that's a death record. For a second, I was like, wait a second, that doesn't add up. Okay, yeah, no, that's so 1871 there. Yeah, big one main thing that you can also do that I didn't really talk about is just Athens, Georgia, genealogy. Just go to the family search wiki, or, you know, all these look at all these links. Athens Regional Library. Let's see what they have. So they've got a good amount of stuff here, it looks like. I don't know how easy. Oh, there we go. Online databases, probate records. So, I mean, basically, it's just a matter of pulling out every possible record you can find to, you know, dig it all up and confirm and correlate. Yeah, no, I understand. Let's see. But I have others telling me this is wrong. Elizabeth Earwood also married Sylvester Drummond. Sylvester would have been Lewis Jackson's father. So it is possible that Sylvester adopted Eddie Hastings. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot to check in with it. So I'm confused. My DNA does not show any Hastings relatives. I have Lewis Franklin, Lewis Edward, and Lewis Jackson, but I have others telling me this is wrong. Yeah, see, I don't know. I mean, at this point, with everything I've seen, the only Hastings part I've seen of it is what you've told me of, that there's a Hastings connection. So unfortunately, at this point, I just haven't seen enough to really dive into the Hastings part, because so yeah, it's gonna, it'll take some some more research to work this out. This does not, this is definitely something that's going to take a minute. So I mean, we've got kind of a basic thing set up here with the trees. But yeah, I mean, yeah, there's a lot to correlate. And I mean, just the fact that I haven't even seen anything on the Hastings things, that's going to be a whole nother thing to look into. So yeah, at this point, I think I'm going to stop on this tree. Definitely Ricky Kelly, keep an eye out for when I do these again and resubmit. Maybe we can back up on this, and even better when you do resubmit, if you can clarify a bit more on everything, and especially if you provide a bit more on the Hastings stuff. Yeah. So yes, I mean, at this point, based on what I've seen, it seems like there's a good backup of this Lewis Edward Drummond being the son of Lewis J. Drummond and Margaret Poole. Obviously not enough to correlate for sure, but yeah, if you can jump into that DNA, that'll definitely help. So, all right, so we're still sitting at 5 responses now. Give it a refresh just to double check. Okay, yeah, so I'm not going to give too much time to let some more people submit, but I'll give just a little bit of time. While we do that, if anyone does have any other questions, let me know. I'm going to kind of just peek through some old chat. It doesn't look like I missed much, because Ricky was kind of just explaining a lot of stuff. So, and everyone kind of let him do it. But yeah, so we'll do another one. I don't have too much time left for the stream. I know I said a hard stop at 5. It's not really a hard stop at 5, maybe more a hard stop at 5:10. So I won't be able to do any like deep dives on the next one, but who knows? Maybe I'll be able to pull up some good, interesting stuff for everyone. So, Illyrian, I saw you say, can you try mine? We'll see. We've got 5 submissions. I don't know if you're one of the submissions. If you have, you're certainly up for being chosen. If you've not submitted yet, I did include a link in the chat for Twitch. So hopefully that's still showing, and you'll be able to submit there. So are you available for research now? So I'm guessing this question means more specifically, am I available to be hired to research your family? And while I'm not quite taking on clients for that right now, I am doing one-on-one consultations. I do have an option to get those set up through my Patreon, but I am starting to take requests for one-on-one consultations through my email, GeneaVlogger@gmail.com. So for one-on-one consultations, I do them either by the half hour or the hour. When you send me an email, I can give you a breakdown on pricing and things like that. But basically, if you set that up, it's literally just a Zoom one-on-one consultation, and we just kind of go through everything we can. So, yeah. Illyrian, I saw you share this. If you've submitted it, make sure that you submit it in this response. Otherwise it won't, be chosen. So yeah, just through the response thing. So there should be that link in Twitch. I double checked that it was there. So yeah, I guess we'll give it another minute or two, let maybe 1 or 2 people submit. So yeah, and then of course, if anyone does have questions in chat until in the meantime, nothing too in depth, feel free to ask. Although if you do ask a question with a super sticker donation, I'll do a little bit more in depth, and I guarantee I'll answer that too. So just like it says up above. All right. So, yeah, just give it a little bit of time in case anyone is submitting. In the meantime, jump back over here to the tether tree. Let's see. Yeah, I'm basically giving it until 4:50 to do it. I don't want to wait too long because the longer I wait, the less time I have actually doing the research. And for those who don't know, I don't know if I've mentioned this at all on stream, but I have a Blue Sky account now. I know Blue Sky's kind of been, the big thing lately. So figured I'd go and get one of those accounts because I've been on Twitter for so long, and then there's a little much a little much getting on Twitter these days. It's just so much intense toxicity and just rage baiting and everything, and it's just like ugh. I went to Blue Sky and I was like, oh yeah, this feels like old Twitter where it's like I'm reading interesting stuff about stuff going on, not just like hate-filled, hate these people, hate those people, Yeah, Blue Sky seems really active right now. Also, no ads or bots, really, so it's more streamlined. Yeah, it definitely does feel that way. I know I've seen a lot of people saying that there's no algorithm, but to me, that doesn't make sense because especially when I look at what Blue Sky says, they even say that, like, there's an algorithm. It's just not, like, quite the same. But I've heard a lot of people saying, oh, there's no algorithm. There's no algorithm. But I definitely noticed there's some sort of an algorithm to it. Maybe there is bots. Yeah, I imagine there are, any social media platform, there probably are. It's just a matter of how well are they taking care of the bots. So I don't know if anyone ever watches the channel Pirate Software with the guy from that used to work at Blizzard. He's the guy that his dad was the person they chose to represent the World of Warcraft guy on South Park. But anyway, he talks a lot about really interesting stuff in terms of how websites take care of like banning people and stuff. I guess it's more video games and stuff, but kind of, yeah, I guess kind of applicable there. Yeah, Hank Green had a video on them. They're weird bots. Interesting. Well, I saw another one come through. We've waited past 4:50, so I think we're going to go ahead and do this. So we're going to do 1 to 6. Now, if we get 3 again, obviously we're not going to do that because that's someone we've already chosen, but here we go. Let's make that bigger so you all can see just in case. And 2. Okay. Well, thank you for those submitting. Now, if 2 is not here, so Shemi D'Angelo, I remember seeing those comments earlier. Daniel, hello. Good evening. Wonderful to have you. Thanks for joining. All right, so yeah, Shemi, if you're here, say something, and we'll jump into it. If not, we'll have to choose somebody else. Oh, here. All right, wonderful. So now let's see what we've got. So what is the main goal of this research? To prove the parents of my third great-grandfather, James L. Thomas. Okay, so I'm guessing, is this a brick wall question? Is James Thomas a brick wall for you? So if that is the case, I doubt we'll solve it today, but in the time we have, hopefully we'll be able to maybe figure something out for you and where to look. But James Thomas, born 1834 in Alabama, suspected date of death, 26th of January, 1908. Sarah May, possible first wife of James, so not quite sure. Emily Hitt, a wife of James. And then James C. Mann, Emily's first husband, unknown birth or death. Suspected father of James, John L. Thomas. Suspected mother of James, Martha Patchy Edward. So we have a hypothesis. So, okay, that's good. What research have you already done in an attempt to obtain your main goal? I found a James in Autauga County in the 1850 census, living with a John and Martha. So that's where you're getting that, I guess. I found a marriage in Autauga for a James Thomas and a Sarah May, hence the possible first wife. In 1860, I found a James with a Sarah in Butler County, Alabama. And an 1870 census with just Sarah and children with the last name Thomas in Lauderdale, Alabama. But after that, she and the children disappeared. Interesting. Okay, so let's jump to what we got here. And so we have our James L. Thomas. We have the presumed parents. We have the 1850 census you mentioned in Otaga County, and John and Martha, and then we have all these other children. Now this is, James is your third great grandfather. Okay, so DNA is a possibility, but it's going to be difficult. Obviously, if you can get parents or grandparents to test, then maybe that's going to be a great way to get in, you know, a better shot, because with this being your third great grandfather, to confirm, what we'd really want to do is find descendants of the other siblings to correlate them as DNA matches. Which, by the way, I have to give a good shout out for including the tags here, because not everyone does that. So that's awesome. So we have the wife that we know for sure, but I see didn't include Sarah, but we do have the census records that you had mentioned. So down here, we've got Thomas. It's just J. Yeah. Thank you so much for just using initials, Mr. Enumerator. Jeez. So, okay. So we have them. And then on the next page, daughter Sarah. So this is, oh wait. So that was the 1870 census. And James R. Thomas, son of Emily, born 1869. So we have J, we have E. Robert Thomas is 14. M. Thomas is 11. So Jazz Thomas. So, but we have none of the older children. Okay. So I think looking at this, I'm getting the feeling that you are in the right track in terms of 2 wives. This is my actual tree. I haven't attached the info about Sarah May because I really wasn't sure. There is a deed in the gallery for Emily's dad, but all that lists is James and Emily. Yeah, but with this census, we have all of these other children. And then you mentioned, where was it? Just Sarah and children with last name Thomas. So can you share a link? Can you share a link to this 1870 census? Because with the 1870 census here, we have J. Thomas and E. Thomas, but then we have all of these older children, Robert, M, N, and then the thing that sticks out most, Sarah Thomas. But then we have one Thomas, the oldest Thomas you have that you have as a son of Emily and James. So I'm just wondering if these are the other children in the household. And even though we rarely expect people to be in the same census 2 times, it does happen. So it could be that when they did this enumeration, the children were with their father, James, and then when they did the enumeration with Sarah, that she was there too. If you look at Emily, she has children with James C. Mann, her first husband. Oh, okay. So some of these older children, even though they have the last name Thomas, do they correlate with the Mann children you have? So it's like they're like Robert Mann, who would be 14 about, or a female M man and then a female N man. Gosh, this enumerator, I am just hating on them for using initials so many places and abbreviating. They are the children of Emily, not of James. Okay, so that for sure. Okay. Yeah, because when I saw the Sarah Thomas here, that got me thinking, oh, well, if mom's Sarah, then this is, most people don't, I feel like, don't say this, but, technically Sarah Jr. I keep jumping back because I keep thinking that's the tree. Okay, so these censuses. So Sarah is a question mark. So one thing with the DNA, if Sarah is correct, then doing DNA that way is going to be helpful as well. you know, because what we were talking about in terms of identifying James as parents, but then also if James and Sarah were truly spouses, you know, husband and wife, and they had those children, then finding their descendants and DNA testing them will help. Granted, I know you said that you couldn't find anything about them after 1870. After that, she and the children disappear. But that's where DNA can come in sometimes, especially if you have DNA on MyHeritage or Ancestry. You can use through lines or the theory of my family relativity to link your tree. And if it just so happens that Sarah, one of her children, DNA tested, you might be able to identify them as a match, because they'd be your, you know, second great grandparents, half siblings, if that is correct. So yeah, so I haven't even really built anything yet. Although I guess we don't always have to necessarily build. We can, you know, we've got to review stuff first. So in terms of the spouse, okay, that's an interesting one. Now, one thing I should say in terms of DNA testing is a possibility for this Thomas family. And let's see, where's, okay, up this line. Let's get that nice and clean. So this is where we're looking at. This is what we're looking at. So for these siblings, okay, and basically I was trying to see who's who might be available to do some. See, Through Lines has a completely different couple listed, John Thomas and Sarah Britt, but their James died in Mississippi. No evidence my James ever lived in Mississippi. Yeah. With my statement before, Through Lines can give you hints about stuff and that, but yeah, if you have somebody who's done DNA testing and they have the wrong information in their tree, Through Lines isn't going to know it's wrong, and they're going to suggest it. And so that's probably what it is you have some DNA match who, for whatever reason, they're listing the family tree with John Thomas and Sarah Britt as the ancestors, and it's wrong, but Through Lines doesn't know. So it's just saying, hey, based on you matching this person and this person saying these are the ancestors in the tree, maybe these are the ancestors. Especially like I'm guessing it's coming in that like little green box that's the dotted outline where it says potential ancestors. I think it blocked the links I tried to share. Oh, did it? Okay, yeah, I don't know if any of my mods or admins are in there. I'm not seeing anything coming up on my end about links being blocked, but it could be that I might have some setting on that automatically blocks links, but I don't think I do. I don't know. Okay. Either way, we're going to keep going with this. So, the thing that I was going to mention is in terms of autosomal DNA testing, stuff like Ancestry and MyHeritage and all of that, we're right on the cusp of where you have a lot of difficulty with proving DNA or proving things conclusively using that DNA. Basically, if this is your third great-grandfather, or was that what you, no, James is your third great-grandfather. So this is your second great-grandfather. So this is your great-grandmother. So the thing is that because that's right on the cusp of, you know, okay, we know third great-grandfather's correct, but we don't know if fourth great-grandfather's correct. So to prove that, we'd want to get descendants of third great-grandfather's siblings to test, because if we are correct, then, and John L. Thomas and Martha P. Edwards are the ancestors, then we should DNA match these people. But with this being the siblings of third great-grandparents, that means you share fourth great-grandparents, and that means that you would be about fifth cousin distance with people in the same generation. So at that distance, it can be very hard to confidently confirm something. But this is where Y DNA becomes very helpful. And just getting on any of these lines, whether it's a sibling of George Thomas's or a sibling of your great-grandmother, because once after your great-grandmother, there's no more patrilineal line, basically the passing down of the Y chromosome. So we just want to find people that have that Y chromosome, because if we can get a descendant of Lewis L. Thomas, a purely patrilineal where their surname is still Thomas, and we get a purely patrilineal descendant of Paul Thomas, whose surname is still Thomas, they should share the same Y DNA, maybe with like 1 or 2 genetic distance, because that can happen even at that close of a relationship. But basically, we do a comparison, and you should see very conclusively, oh yeah, they are related on the Y chromosome. So yeah, here's the family search ID for Sarah May. I think you could check the link for 1870 census. Okay, yeah, I can do that. Let's see, 505. So I got a little bit of time. Why is my keyboard does this thing to me sometimes where it like just stopped communicating with my okay. What are we doing, keyboard? What are you doing to me? Oh, I do have cable. Okay, there we go. Okay. So let's get into the family search tree. Bibbidi bobbidi boop. All right, LBF6KQ7. LBF6. Yeah, let's it's gonna be easier if I put this over here so I can read it at the same time. Okay, LBF6KQ7. KQ7. Switch. Okay. So we've got a few of these sources. I was adopted, so maybe that makes it a bit more complicated. Okay, so is this your biological family or is this your adoptive family? Either way, it's not going to stop you from trying to get your more distant relatives, whether they be your adoptive relatives or your biological relatives, contacting, some different distant cousins. Yes, this is my biological. Okay, yeah. So I guess obviously, there is a limitation depending on how comfortable are you with contacting these relatives, how well have things gone on in terms of connecting with your biological family. But with that said, one of the things I will say is in my experience, when you're talking about this sort of a distance, I mean, you're talking about people that are going to be your 4th cousins and 5th cousins and stuff like that. Even if you haven't necessarily had the best relationship built with your close or immediate biological family, parents or siblings or things like that, distant cousins, it's kind of easier because for one, they probably don't even know what your immediate family. But yeah, so I know that can make things a little weird for people sometimes. Yeah. So, okay. So jumping back here, this is the 1870 census you were talking about. And so here we have a Sarah Thomas, Autauga, Alabama. And then we have these children, Johnny, Mary, and Lewis, and all in Alabama. So yeah, I mean, with I know with the name Thomas, that makes it super difficult. But I think what you might be able to do to possibly track them down, so here we go, is just use the information that you have at hand to try to identify them as best possible. And so the thing that we have here is the combination of the names, the ages, and Alabama. So basically, you're just going to try to can you find a family where there's a John Thomas, Mary Thomas, and a Lewis Thomas that are all from Alabama, no matter where they're living, that are within these ages. So let's take a look. Johnny Thomas is born 1859 about. We're just going to call him John. Actually, I guess we'll go with Johnny. Johnny Thomas, about 1859. We'll do a 5-year gap, and we know Alabama. Oh, we want to make sure it's the birth location. So let's just see. Now we're just seeing how many come up, how many fit within this. So let's make it exact and similar. All right, so we are working with a pretty big stretch of people, not out of the realm of possibilities of discovering. Now we do have the, okay, so here's that 1870 census we were talking about before. Now here's interesting. Here's a tree someone has, and they have Sarah Ann Mixon Griffin. Then we have Mary Thomas and Lewis Thomas. So nothing to sign from there, but it looks like, yeah, there's, yeah. So, okay, interesting. So we get a little bit here, not a lot, but just by having a little bit more information on Sarah Ann Mixon, dies 1888 in Texas. So it looks like she went to Texas. Okay, so Mary's Walter. So this, now there's some weird things going on here, but not too crazy. The main thing is that if this is Sarah, all of the children have left the house now. Where is she? Okay, here we go. Okay, so Sarah Griffin, Walter S. Griffin, Eddie Griffin, stepson. Now, are there any Thomases living nearby that we could possibly put as one of the Thomases we were looking at before? Nothing within the same pages. Okay. So this could possibly be her. We have Mississippi marriage, 1853. Abram D. Thomas. Okay, so that throws a little bit of a curveball into things because they're using the same census records, but they're applying it to a different marriage. Because I remember you mentioned that you found a marriage. Let's go back. I found a marriage in Autauga for James Thomas and Sarah May in 1860. Yeah. Okay, let's jump over here. Was the marriage 1855? So James Thomas, Sarah May. So let's see, which one is it? This one. So we've got Sarah. Gosh, this one. I haven't looked at many Alabama marriage records. This is quite a beautiful record, I have to say. So we have James Thomas, his mark. So didn't seem like he was literate, at least not at that point. So interesting. All right. Honestly, I'm super intrigued by this one. Super intrigued by this one, but unfortunately, I think I got to cut it short here. But yeah, I mean, I definitely see where you're coming from in terms of, you know, we've got this marriage. Now the thing to see is how common is the name James Thomas in Autauga, which is kind of what we were doing here with the Johnny Thomas, was how many Johnny Thomases are born within that kind of general time period. Whoops. So with this most recent one, if it'll load, we're looking at every Johnny Thomas or John Thomas about who was born 1859 or 1857, 1861 in Alabama. Now I think he was he in the, I know I said I got to, it's just, there's so many okay, we asked this question, we asked that question. And I should say too, a lot of times I will talk about how we always want to try to utilize the ability to prove or disprove things. And sometimes it's about trying to disprove it. And so a lot of what I'm kind of going through with this is what I've been trying to do in terms of proving or disproving. If this is true, then this must be true. So let's see what records show on if that's true or not. And so that was kind of part of it is, okay, well, we've got this Thomas family, and we have a marriage of Sarah May Thomas. Then we have this other family wherever I had it. This one here, where a Sarah Mixon Thomas marrying a not a John Thomas or whatever, or James Thomas, but a different Tom. So it's like, okay, we've got a lot of stuff going on here. So we just need to figure out how many of them were there in that area that had these names, and how well can we decipher them, and can we start building separate trees for each one to help us better decipher who is who. So yeah, I definitely would say it seems like it's a question mark of if that is correct. But I mean, we can see right here, you know, we've got John Thomas, November 1859, Alabama. Another John Thomas, November 1859, Alabama. John Thomas, February 1859, Alabama. You know, so we've got a few that we can work with, and all of these are 1900 census. And so this is another way you can look at it is go to the exact record for just 1 year in the census and just see how many times were they coming up. So we pull up 1900, limited to the 30 census records. And here we go. We've got all our John Thomases born about 1860, born in Alabama. And we have, okay, starting from here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 to choose from. So it's possible. It's just going to take a lot of work. And that's just for the son of the possible marriage of Sarah and James Thomas. So this, you know, it will take a lot of work. So hopefully that was helpful for you, and hopefully for a lot of other folks as well. Unfortunately, I've got to call it here because I've got to get rolling. Well, I got to take my dogs on a walk, and then I got to get heading off to downtown Raleigh for an appointment at 6 o'clock and all that. So yeah. But thank you so much, everybody, for joining today. Truly appreciate it as always. Hope you have a wonderful weekend. Obviously, next week we're going to be back on the reaction channel. Yeah, have a great Friday. Have a great weekend. Thank you so much for spending your time with me over this past hour. So I will see you all later. I'm Jarrett Ross, the GeneaVlogger. I'm out. Peace.